I throttled up on the snow machine, but it just spun and it kept going down.
Trapped beneath the ice.
I just said, Bert, I can't do this.
One couple's sub-zero survival.
To this day, I don't know how I got in the canoe.
Well, welcome to this edition of the 700 Club. We're delighted to have you with us. On this program some time ago, I told the audience that the smart investment was in silver. Lo and behold, silver has taken a run. It's gone up to, I don't know, $36, $38 an ounce, which is unprecedented since the days of the Hunt squeeze on silver.
Think that'll last?
Yes. I also said gold was going to $1,800 an ounce, and it went, up and down, and then way up again, and it's like $1,440 an ounce and going higher. And oil is hitting at about $106, and the Brent is up higher than that. So people are getting hurt in the pumps, and my heart goes out to those who are driving. And the administration still doesn't get it. They're talking about tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is nonsense. You just don't do that just because prices go up a little bit. But they need to start drilling, and they're not doing it. So we've got a problem.
Makes you wonder what would have to happen for them to contemplate that.
A new election where they get defeated. And new people come in. All right. But anyhow, there's another showdown taking place in Washington over the budget. Republicans want to cut $61 billion in spending, which isn't all that much considering we have a $1.6 trillion deficit. But Democrats only want to cut $6 billion, $6.5, excuse me.
Well, Republicans are saying that the Democrats just aren't serious about cutting the huge budget deficit. John Jessup has the story from Washington.
It's a new legislative week on Capitol Hill, but lawmakers are returning right back to an issue they have yet to resolve: the budget.
Our priorities are out of whack.
Congress avoided a government shutdown last week by passing an extension to fund the government through March 18th. That bought lawmakers more time to negotiate, but so far, they don't appear to be any closer to an agreement. Republicans say Democrats and the White House aren't serious about cutting spending and tackling the deficit, and Democrats are countering with the same charge.
I don't believe what we have from the House is a serious economic plan. I think it's a ideological, extremist, reckless statement.
House Republicans are proposing a plan that would cut about $60 billion from the federal budget and fund the government through the end of the fiscal year. Democrats put forward a measure that would cut far less, only $6.5 billion in spending. They say the GOP plan is too extreme and appear unwilling to compromise in adopting more cuts in areas they consider important.
I can tell you personally, I'm willing to see more deficit reduction, but not out of domestic discretionary spending.
Both sides say given the $14 trillion federal debt, everything must be on the table. But Republicans say Democrats aren't offering much in terms of ideas.
Now, Dick says everything has to be on the table, but under their plan, nothing's on the table.
President Obama is calling on Congress to work together on cuts that won't slow the economy's recovery. But the divide between the parties makes it uncertain just how soon they can get it done.
We are only 7 months away from the end of this fiscal year, and we don't have a budget, which is kind of ridiculous. No company could get away with that.
But his critics say the president isn't doing enough and is squandering an opportunity to make some fiscal headway.
This is the perfect time to do it. We control part of the government. They control part of the government. It could be done in a very, very effective way.
So far, the only area of agreement seems to be on avoiding a government shutdown. But with differing opinions on budget priorities and little time before the next deadline, even a government shutdown appears to be a topic that's up for debate. John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, John. I don't believe that the interest groups in our country will permit their representatives to go forward with the necessary cuts that are needed to balance our fiscal economy here. And without that, our nation is going bankrupt. And ladies and gentlemen, a couple of years from now, we're going to pay the price when all of a sudden we're no longer the reserve currency in the world. when all of a sudden our interest rates are sky high, and all of a sudden nobody will loan us money except at exorbitant interest rates, and all of a sudden we look more like Argentina than the United States of America. It is happening before our eyes, and these guys don't seem to want to recognize what's there. You cannot spend money you don't have. And when you're looking at a $1.6 trillion, not budget, but deficit in the budget, it is unbelievable. And yet they say, well, we'll offer $6 billion, which is absurd. But that's the way it is, and they're bringing this country to ruin. And if the Republicans hold fast, I'm sure there are many people, interest groups, say, well, you can't cut my money. I want more of this, that, and the other. But they're going to have to deal with entitlements. They're going to have to deal with everything. They're going to have to deal with defense. There is no item in the budget that is going to be sacred. They're going to have to go after all of it. But they're not willing to do it. And consequently, our children and grandchildren are going to pay the price. Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Well, Pat, as you mentioned at the top of the program, oil prices jumped up close to $107 today. That following more intense fighting between Libyan government forces and rebels. Oil has now reached its highest price since September of 2008. And it means more pain at the pump. Gas prices have gone up 33 cents in just the last 2 weeks.
I need a break from gas prices. It's tough. It's tough for families these days.
It's going $4 by tomorrow. You know, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It was about $3.19 and today $3.49. So it's a dramatic jump, I'd say.
The Obama administration is considering tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, as Pat mentioned, to try to lower oil prices. But some critics say that may not have a significant impact, and it may not help the president politically.
Decision would be, I think, have a bad odor to it. And so he's probably weighing whether the politics will go north or south, and we'll see.
There is mounting political pressure from the right for the U.S. to do more oil drilling here at home and reduce its dependency on foreign sources. Pat, do you think it would serve conservatives well to make that a campaign issue?
Absolutely. I think they ought to go after Obama right now and say, you're paying more at the gas pump. Look at who's in the White House. They didn't drill in Anwar up in the north slope of Alaska. They don't allow much drilling and permits in the Gulf. They're holding up on any offshore in terms of the Atlantic. We have, in terms of shale oil, there are many environmentalists who are resisting the development of this huge amount of shale gas and oil that we have in these various beds, like the Marcellus in Pennsylvania, et cetera. The government doesn't want that to happen. They're making it tough to mine and process coal. We need a crash program to get our nation into a situation where we have the appropriate energy. But what do? They run up the price of corn and say you've got to have 15% ethanol in your gas. That's absurd. Just absolutely absurd. There's no amount of corn that we have in this nation that's going to make up for the need. We need petroleum. And either that, we need to have cars that will run off natural gas, like Boone Pickens suggests, or buses. We need a way to heat our boilers from natural gas or with clean coal. Certainly no oil. But we're in a process where we're just not dealing with it because the environmental lobby is so strong. So, folks, we've got environmental groups, we've got interest groups in our nation that are destroying the nation. They don't want America to succeed. They want their interest above yours and mine and the rest of the country. And as a result, we're paying the price because there's paralysis in Washington. It makes me very sad to see it. It's a great nation, but we're tearing ourselves apart. Lee?
Pat, New York Republican Peter King is holding a controversial congressional hearing later this week on the radicalization of American Muslims. His challenge will be to focus on the threat of homegrown terrorism without attacking the Islamic religion. Heather Sells has that story.
There is a growing consensus among both parties and the country's top security leaders that radicalized Muslims are a huge threat to the U.S. Even Homeland Security Chief Janet Napolitano had this to say about the latest terror plots here.
an increasing amount of hometown or homegrown terrorist activity, particularly by individuals who have become radicalized and associated with al-Qaeda or Islamist terrorism beliefs and techniques and tactics.
Congressman Peter King, a Republican from New York, heads the House Homeland Security Committee. On Thursday, he'll hold a hearing to look at radicalization and how the Muslim community can help law enforcement combat it.
Right now, there is an effort, and this isn't just me saying this. Eric Holder said he stays awake at night worrying about the numbers of young Muslim men who are being radicalized.
Congressman Keith Ellison, a Muslim, is defending the hearing, but both he and the White House have urged King to take caution.
It's absolutely the right thing to do for the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee to investigate radicalization. But to say we're going to investigate a religious minority, in a particular one, I think is the wrong course of action to take.
What both sides can agree on and what the hearings will focus on is how Muslims can help law enforcement to combat radicalism, just as they have already in a number of cases. Heather Sells, CBN News.
An American pastor jailed in Haiti says he doesn't know why he's in prison. 29-year-old Danny Pye was taken into custody 5 months ago over a property dispute. That dispute was settled and no charges were filed, but Pye is still in jail. Haitian authorities have said little about the case, and there's no court date set. Pye and his family moved to Haiti in 2004 to do missions work. His wife has returned to their Florida home. She's expected, Pat, to give birth to the couple's son this month.
Lee, the organization I head, Operation Blessing, is spending hundreds of millions of dollars helping the Haitian people. The United States is spending probably several $1 million helping the Haitian people. This is nonsense. And I don't know why the State Department doesn't tell the Haitians, you let that guy out of jail. He's done nothing wrong. Said he was jailed on account of a property dispute. He's not broken any laws. And the poor guy is rotting away in a Haitian jail. Where is the State Department on this thing? And why did the Haitians come to heel? They're our clients on this one, and you know, we have got to stop giving them all that money if they're going to behave this way. Lee?
Pat, the spring break season is here. Mexico is the favorite destination for many college students. But with the drug wars going on there, is it safe? Nearly 35,000 people have died in drug-related killings in the 4 years since Mexico's president began cracking down on drug cartels in Mexico. The death of an American immigration agent there last month is the latest example of the kinds of headlines that are keeping college students away this year. CBN News reporter Chuck Holton has the story from the tourist hotspot of Mazatlan, Mexico.
2 American agents from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement gunned down on a highway north of Mexico City. Bandits ran their blue SUV off the road and then attacked. The attack has led some lawmakers to call for a review of U.S. strategy in the region. Several hours to the west from where this latest tragedy occurred is the Mexican Riviera. And here in Mazatlan, the hotel owners are gearing up for what's usually their biggest time of the year, Carnival and spring break. They're hoping it'll be a good one. But they're worried. Mexico is battling a serious image problem. The narco wars have killed more than 500 this year alone. At that rate, 2011 could surpass last year's bloody toll of over 15,000 dead. While the vast majority of those killings took place in only 4 of Mexico's 32 states, even the safest areas are feeling the effects. Last month, Disney Cruise Lines canceled their berthings here in Mazatlan, a major blow to the city's tourism industry. But deep discounts and a frigid winter up north are so far keeping the hotels in business, with some resorts reporting up to 80% occupancy. But tourism officials know that discounts are a short-term solution, and the killing of an American immigration agent only makes it tougher for Mexico to lure American tourists and their money to the Mexican Riviera. Chuck Holton, CBN News, Mazatlan, Mexico.
And you can find out more about this story on Chuck's blog. It's called Boots on the Ground, and it's at cbnnews.com. With all of the turmoil shaking the Arab world, Israel is the nation most sensitive to all the shifts and changes. And while nations and boycott groups try to isolate the Jewish state, Mark Martin shows us a gathering to honor Israel.
Egypt's recent revolt could lead to a surrounding of Israel by hostile forces. Hamas in Gaza and Egypt to the south, Hezbollah and 60,000 missiles in the north, and Syria with its chemical weapons to the east. And further east, Iran, whose government wants to wipe out the Jewish state.
We as Jews have never felt more isolated nor more threatened by the world abroad since perhaps the founding of the State of Israel in 1948.
In the middle of the hostility against the Jewish people, the largest pro-Israel organization in the United States, Christians United for Israel, is holding a number of gatherings called A Night to Honor Israel. The theme is based on Isaiah 62:1, which says, "For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent."
I'm hoping that Jews and Christians will find their voice and that tonight's event will help that to happen.
For God will save Zion and rebuild the cities of Judah.
Hundreds of people attended A Night to Honor Israel in Virginia Beach, and voices rang out clearly in support of the Jewish state.
We will always stand with Israel. God bless all of them.
Including the one belonging to CBN founder and chairman, Dr. Pat Robertson.
There's so much hatred against the Jews, and I think if the Christians in this country can stand solidly with Israel, it'll make a huge amount of difference.
Why do politicians and diplomats, including diplomats in our own State Department, get more angry at news that an Israeli government is building apartments for its citizens in its capital than they do when they find out that the Holocaust denier Ahmadinejad is attempting to build nuclear weapons?
Keynote speaker and president of American Values, Gary Bauer, also did not mix words.
While an event like this one tonight is always a good thing to do, it seems particularly timely tonight when Israel is facing greater challenges and potential dangers in the Middle East.
Timely support in a world of unrest and turmoil.
The day of Christians worshiping a Jewish carpenter while we ignore the plight of our Jewish neighbors is over.
Mark Martin, CBN News, Virginia Beach.
Pat, that appeared to be an enthusiastic crowd Saturday night.
Indeed it was, Lee. It was very well attended and very enthusiastic, and I think it shows the heart of the evangelical community toward Israel. The Jews have begun to realize that the evangelicals are their strongest allies throughout the world. They don't have many. The world is against them, and it's like a noose coming around somebody's neck. They're surrounded by hostile neighbors, and the United Nations is opposed to them, and the European Union is opposed to them, and their major ally has been the United States, and with the Obama administration, it's questionable whether our stance in defense of Israel is going to be as strong as ever. So who's left? The evangelicals. Terry?
Well, coming up, a battle for the judiciary in the heartland of America. Find out why voters in Iowa kicked 3 justices off the bench. Plus, our chat room is live, and we want to hear from you. We're going to bring it online with your questions for Pat. That's later on today's show.
When you look in the mirror, can you imagine erasing years of aging? That's what I used to look like. Lifestyle Lift takes only about an hour. See the difference immediately.
I'm Linda. I'm 70 years old. Can you believe it?
Call now for a free information kit. It's quick, affordable, and takes only about an hour. Lifestyle Lift, a breakthrough medical procedure that helps remove wrinkles, frown lines, and sagging skin. Call now for a free information kit. Consultations are free. Call Lifestyle Lift today.
Do you have money to burn? If not, you need to know that the paper dollars you're invested your life savings in are being consumed right now in a growing blaze of inflation and declining value. Economists know why the dollar is burning and at risk of crashing. It's because politicians and central bankers keep printing them. And this makes the dollars you've worked so hard for worth less and less. The politicians and bankers hated the gold standard because it forced them to be honest. That's why the US dollar keeps losing value and could soon crash. The good news is that you can create your own personal gold standard and keep your savings protected when the dollar crashes. Call or visit online now Find out more about the best performing assets of the 21st century from the best company in the country, Swiss America.
Tomorrow.
I was sexually abused by 5 members of my family.
A desperate woman
Something's wrong with me.
seeks help from her pastor
His reply to me was, "You're damaged goods."
and finds it where she least expects it.
I woke up after taking a bottle of sleeping pills with a NyQuil chaser.
Tomorrow on the 700 Club.
Well, Iowa is front and center in the presidential election. It's the first caucus in the nation, and all the press comes pouring into Iowa. But there was a little watched election in Iowa last November that could change the way America views its courts. Iowans voted 3 of their Supreme Court justices off the bench. Heather Sells reports now. The question is whether activists in other states will target their judges, too.
What he joined together, no one should put us under.
Conservative activist Bob Vander Plaats led the campaign that removed 3 Iowa Supreme Court justices. Now he's firing up the base for next year's presidential caucuses and reminding voters of their judicial victory.
They gave us the retention vote for the people to hold a court in check if they saw necessary. The retention vote wasn't just to be a "that a boy, you're doing a good job, just keep going."
The vote has sparked nationwide debate over when voters should take judges off the bench and the balance between judicial independence and accountability to voters. But one area of total agreement, it was a historic vote. Only once before in California have voters removed multiple Supreme Court justices. Iowa's decision also marked a turning point in campaign finance. From 2000 to 2009, just $2.2 million was spent nationwide on retention elections. In 2010 alone, that number grew to $4.6 million, including close to $1 million in Iowa.
Judges are supposed to be accountable to the law and the Constitution, not to special interest groups, not to political forces.
When Iowans took 3 of their justices off the bench, it caught the attention of conservative activists around the country. Now many are wondering if they might begin to harness this newfound power to take other justices off the bench.
I think there's a lot of concern among observers that there will be more and more politics, more and more money pouring into states that have tried to insulate their selection of judges from politics and money by using retention elections.
Iowa's Chief Justice Mark Cady fears that judges may have to hit the campaign trail just to keep their job.
The more long-term worry and concern is that if retention elections are going to be transformed into political campaigns.
Cady says voters politicize the judiciary if they punish judges for a single ruling, like the one to legalize gay marriage. But conservatives say the judges were out of bounds, legislating from the bench.
I would say they politicize the courts. We just operate with the vehicle that we had available to us.
New Republican House Speaker Craig Paulson says the retention vote reflected overall dissatisfaction with government. In Iowa, voters not only rejected 3 justices, they said goodbye to their governor and turned the House over to the GOP.
All 3 branches of government, the electorate addressed in this last election cycle. And you know what? We're still functioning. We're moving forward. The state's going to end up stronger. That's the way the system was designed, and it's working.
In next year's general election, Iowans will decide whether to retain another justice involved in the ruling. In the meantime, there is pressure for a marriage amendment bill, which would give voters the final say. And with evangelical conservatives expected to dominate the caucuses, many presidential candidates may be forced to weigh in on the debate as well.
They're definitely interested in this. It's the perhaps overriding issue for them.
In 1996, U.S. Chief Justice William Rehnquist described judicial independence as one of the crown jewels of our system of government. What's at stake in Iowa, and perhaps other states, is how and when our judges become accountable to the people they serve. Reporting in Des Moines, Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, when the judges become radical, when the judges go 180 degrees away from the electorate, then you can expect the electorate to rise up against them. We don't have a government by a judiciary that is has got some kind of nobility attached to it. I mean, they're just people like everybody else, and they supposedly serve on the federal bench in good behavior. In some of these states, they're elected, and if they want to go against the will of the people, then they can expect to be recalled. So I don't think that has too much to do with judicial independence. It has to do with the fact that they're out of step with their people. Terry?
Well, up next, a sub-zero survival.
The snow machine drops away from you and you're in the water floating.
It just sunk into the ice. The ice just kind of collapsed around us.
Hear how this couple escaped the ice. That's next.
In the next 60 seconds, we want you to qualify to be the next $50,000 home makeover winner. Pick up the phone and get ready to start dialing when the number appears on your screen. Call the number on your screen now and we'll mail you a key. If your key opens the lock in your local Direct Buy Club, you'll be the next $50,000 home makeover winner. Operators are standing by, so call right now. Direct Buy Club has already awarded over $1 million, and someone is going to win the $50,000 home makeover. Why not you? If the phone number is blinking, the phone lines are open. Call now to receive your key and an invitation to your local Direct Buy Club, where members can save thousands or more paying low direct from the source prices on big ticket items like kitchen cabinets, home furnishings, flooring, bathroom fixtures, and so much more. Call now and get your key to winning a $50,000 home makeover. Someone is going to win the $50,000 home makeover. Why not you?
To see this week's top on-demand videos, go to CBN.com.
It takes only a few minutes to die of hypothermia. And that's if paralysis or heart failure doesn't kill you first. So when Wayne and Claudia Brood fell into the icy waters of northern Michigan, they knew that their lives were no longer in their hands.
Wayne and Claudia Brood are caretakers on a private island on the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. Most of the year, they cross a quarter-mile channel by boat to the mainland. But during the winter freeze, they exchanged the boat for a snowmobile and an ice bridge.
I get nervous at times, especially at the beginning of the year when it's just freezing up, because there's spots that don't freeze up as well as other spots.
We've been crossing by snowmobile for a couple of days already.
Same place we've crossed for many, many years. We really thought that the ice was fine. And as he started to cross, we hit a slushy spot in the ice. And
I throttled up on the snow machine, but it just spun and it kept going down.
It just sunk into the ice. The ice just kind of collapsed around us.
And the snow machine drops away from you and you're in the water floating.
I just knew that we were in trouble, and I just immediately started praying to God that, because I didn't know how we were going to get out of this situation. But I wasn't afraid of dying, but I was afraid of watching Wayne die, because he wouldn't have left me there. He would have done what he could to get me out.
As they struggled in the freezing waters, Wayne's brother-in-law, Bert, who was visiting for the weekend, heard a noise that caught his attention.
I just heard the snowmobile when he revved it up, and it spun out before it went down, I guess, and then that's what I heard. And it just sounded a little unusual, so that's why I looked that way.
God really intervened, and there's no doubt about it, because had he not, I don't think Bert would have heard us or seen us. The location he was at was quite distant.
I ran up in that boat shelter, and the first thing I saw on the door was a canoe sitting there. So I grabbed this old canoe and shoved it out there, and then went behind it and used it as a platform to get on the weak ice.
And he was pushing it out to Claudia, and the ice is cracking as he's going.
The end of the canoe came out and right over the hole, and he's like, grab a hold of the canoe and I'll pull you out. Well, I put my arms up to grab it, but my hand, by that time my fingers weren't bending anymore. I just said, Bert, I can't do this.
Got a hold of her one hand and started pulling, trying to get her back on the ice. And by that time I seen Wayne, he was starting to crawl out himself. He was able to finally get up after he knew that I had a hold of Claudia, that he got out on the ice himself. And he tried to come help me too, get Claudia out, but the ice started to give way.
None of us later on could remember how I got in the canoe. To this day, I don't know how I got in the canoe. I was so tired.
God was there. Angels were there. Just one little miracle after another. God could have taken us home that day, but he chose not to.
Moments later, they were back at the house. They had survived.
I stepped into the shower, and Wayne put his arms around me. I just started sobbing, and I was just praising God that I was alive.
When you've been together so many years and realize how close you've come to being separated.
Wayne and Claudia continue to cross the ice bridge, always aware of how fragile life can be, and thankful that they've been given more time.
I know that I am here because God ordained it to be so. I'm not here because Bert saved me. I'm here because God wants me to be here. After it happened, it really gave me freedom. I was able to share my faith and how that I knew where I was going to spend eternity.
Thinking back to that day, and glad I'm here. Praise God.
God saved us twice in our lifetime. Once when Wayne and I trusted Jesus to be our Savior, and then again when he orchestrated our rescue that day out in the channel. From now until the day I die, I will spend the rest of my life praising him and trying to live for him and to make good of the extra time that he has given me, because I know that that's why I'm here. If one thing it taught me, it was life is very fragile. You may not have tomorrow. And my question to people would be, are you ready? Are you ready to meet Jesus? Are you ready to stand before the God of all the universe? Because it can happen so fast.
You never know. You never know. You never know when that day is going to come. Jesus said, be ready, because you never know. You never know what day I'm going to come back. You never know what day or hour I will come back. And you never know at what time the Lord might call you. You could be walking down the street and a stray bullet could kill you. You could be walking down the street and something could fall on top of you and kill you. You could be driving your car and something would skid out of control and hit you and kill you. In this case, a snowmobile goes into bad ice and you could freeze to death. There's so many things. You can't say, well, I'm safe, I'm comfortable, I've got it all together. None of us do. None of us can count on tomorrow. I can't give you the next second. I can't give you the next hour because I don't know when it's going to be, and neither do you. We're all dependent on the grace of God. And what they said is what I would say to you, be ready. Jesus said, be ready, for you don't know at what hour your Lord might come. And if you're not ready, why don't you call upon him now and say, Jesus, I want you to be my Savior. I want you to come into my heart. Take me, Lord, and be my Savior. If you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. That's what the Bible says. So quickly say, Lord, I want to give my life to you. And if you need any help, we have telephones available, 1-800-759-0700. Just call and say, listen, I am ready. I have asked the Lord to take over my life. Terry?
Well, still ahead, you can't turn back the clock, but you can slow it down. Men's Health editor Stephen Perrine shows us what you can do to stay younger longer. That's later on today's show.
I didn't understand what love was. I didn't have a good example. I knew of God, and I often would think to myself, God, if you're real, help me in this situation. I told the Lord, I said, God, I don't have anything to offer you. It's just me and my little baby, and I don't have anything together. I had peace. It was so refreshing. He loves you so much that he died for you. And if he can do all of this in my life, he can do it for you.
If you're one of the millions of Americans without dental insurance, ask yourself these 3 important questions. 1, does your company not offer dental insurance? 2, are you self-employed? 3, are you retired? If you answered yes to any of these, it's important that you call Encore Dental today. Encore Dental is real insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You'll receive up to 100% coverage for preventive care and up to 50% on basic and major procedures. Encore Dental can help keep your teeth healthy, which may prevent infections that lead to heart disease and stroke. And with the high cost of procedures, it makes sense to have great coverage. Choose your level of benefits. There are no claim forms to fill out and no waiting for reimbursement. So go ahead, review it for 30 days.
Call 1-800-671-6148. Call now and save an additional 10%.
Call now and save an additional 10%.
Welcome back to the 700 Club. Speaker of the House John Boehner is launching a legal group to defend the Defense of Marriage Act. That's the federal law that defines marriage as between one man and one woman. President Obama refuses to defend that law in court, and Boehner is calling on the House of Representatives legal team to take action on behalf of the chamber. The Portuguese version of the 700 Club has moved to high definition now. Club 700, as it's called, has been changing lives in Brazil since 2006. The switch to HD coincides with a new season of episodes. The program is a 30-minute magazine-style program similar to this program. It features inspirational testimonies and talks about life issues. Club 700 website has also launched a new look. It's designed to help fans watch episodes on demand and navigate the site more easily. And you can find out more about CBN World Reach by logging on to cbn.com/worldreach. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club after this.
I was in a lot of pain. I remember feeling, I don't want to have cancer. Why is this happening?
I went to pray with my 10-year-old. He said that he wished he had 2 hearts because one of them was breaking.
I had to reassure her a lot that I'm going to be okay. Things are going to be all right. You know, God's on our side.
This is one thing that Cancer Treatment Center does for people. They give them the courage and the strength to battle cancer.
When you first walk in that building, you almost feel like there's the presence of the Holy Spirit.
It is about the patient. It is only about the patient and what is it that they need and what do they want.
Call now and we'll send you this free DVD that shows you how our very special team of experts and caregivers put you at the center of everything we do. Hope is alive at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
I don't really see how anyone can get through a life-threatening disease without the Lord in their life. He gives us the strength that we need to carry on.
Well, the Fountain of Youth is little more than folklore and mythology, but one man may have found the next best thing.
Steve Perrine is the editor of Men's Health magazine. For over 10 years, his team has been obsessed with helping people reach their fitness goals and stay healthy. Instead of counting fat grams or calories, they've come up with 5 simple tests to find out how fast your clock is ticking and what to do to slow down the hands of time.
Please welcome back to the 700 Club the author of the new books, The Men's Health Diet and The Women's Health Diet. Stephen, welcome back.
Terry, thanks so much. Appreciate you having me here.
Well, so much information that you had to do 2 separate books because it really is different for men and women, isn't it?
It is, but, you know, a lot of the principles are very much the same. And as you and I were talking before, that, you know, I'm kind of not only the author of the books, but I'm the biggest booster because the tips in there really worked for me.
Yeah. Tell me about your own weight loss. You lost 35 pounds.
About 35 pounds in my early 30s. I came to work for Men's Health. I was, you know, overweight, tired all the time, and, you know, started adapting the principles that we talk about in Men's Health and Women's Health magazines. Lost 35 pounds. I've kept it off now for 15 years. So it's not just fast and effective, but it's a lifestyle, it's a lifelong change.
Yeah. You've changed the way that you think, and you've changed what's important to you. I'm sure you couldn't consistently hang on to all of that.
Sure, and a lot of it is just knowing a few very, very simple tips, which we've outlined in the Men's Health Diet and the Women's Health Diet.
Well, I know the thing that's really intrigued people that we've mentioned today is the ability to stay younger longer. We live in a culture that just values youth and the ability to stay vibrant. So you've kind of outlined this in decades. We're going to start with the 20s and talk about that.
Sure. You know, staying younger is a lot about staying healthy, and that's what's so great. So first thing you need to know is in your 20s, that's when stress really starts to begin to hit.
That's true.
And it's the first time that women tend to show signs of depression as well. Nutrition is really, really valuable when it comes to fighting stress and fighting depression. We recommend flaxseed, ground flaxseed in particular, because it's very, very high in omega-3 fatty acids, which help improve brain function and fight depression. Another thing that's very important is monitoring blood sugar. A lot of people don't think, they think blood pressure, they think cholesterol, but blood sugar monitoring is very important. So ask your doctor ask your doctor to get tested. 1/3 of people at risk for diabetes have no idea that they're at risk.
Wow.
Belly fat, too, is another thing you want to focus on. You can go to womenshealthmag.com and find a BMI, which is body mass index, calculator, help you know whether or not you're struggling with a little extra weight. And a fourth thing we want you to think about in your 20s, we show this little Bluetooth type device here. Women are more prone to die in car accidents at this time than at any other time in their lives. And the reason is because we're distracted. We're talking on cell phones. 1 in 20 women admits to putting on makeup while driving.
Oh, I've seen that for years in the car. I marvel when I see somebody driving and doing their mascara at the same time.
Seatbelts and common sense are really critical.
It's really true. That is common sense, and we ought to utilize it. Okay, this is the 30s. Wow, it gets the most room here.
Once you hit your 30s, you know, number one thing I want you to think about is protecting your skin. Skin cancer becomes a risk. Use sunscreen, and particularly look for a sunscreen that has a physical sunblock, meaning either zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. They'll last longer and be more protective than chemical sunblocks. Look for one also that has vitamins A, C, or E, the antioxidants, which improve the quality of sunblock. Third thing I want you to do is stay out of the sun. If you exercise, stay out of the sun between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Exercise indoors during those times. The reason, sweat makes the skin more receptive to the sun's rays.
So you need to go early?
So if you're going to exercise outdoors, do it before 10 or after 4. But do exercise, because starting at age 30, women lose about 10% of their body muscle mass over the next 20 years.
Wow.
And muscle mass is critical for keeping fat at bay. Muscle and fat are at a constant war inside your body.
For a lot of women, they're right at those childbearing years, too. So your body's really in a vulnerable place,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
That's why exercise, and particularly resistance training, is really important. It's also the point in your life where blood pressure begins to go up. Now, when we think about blood pressure, we think about cutting down on salt, and that's really important. But blood pressure is really a balance between salt and potassium.
I did not realize that.
Absolutely, it's like a boat.
So there's some common things we can do here. These 3 are sort of the blood pressure.
Bananas, beans, raisins are really great for boosting potassium and helping keeping...
Every day?
As much as you can. As much as you can. Coconut water, that trendy new drink, really great for potassium.
Good that something trendy is also
And the other thing I want you to focus on is nuts. They're not only a great weight loss, I think of nuts as like little weight loss pills, but they're also loaded with arginine, which increases blood flow, which, you know, the 30s is a really stressful time, and your sex life really kind of like pays the toll, kids, job, mortgage, everything else. So nuts improve blood flow, and that's really, really great for that.
Okay, so here we go with the 40s.
You know, in your 40s, wrinkles become an issue. I know that for myself. And so we recommend using a night cream that has emollients that will help smooth those out. But the other thing I want you to think about is eat more orange food.
Okay.
Why? Because it's loaded with carotenoids, which basically help keep wrinkles at bay and help protect against skin cancer.
This is great. This all looks wonderful. Now, you have strong orange here and then strong green here. What's that about?
Leafy greens are loaded with lutein, which helps protect against macular degeneration, one of the greatest risks for blindness.
Yeah,
in fact,
my mom has that.
Oh, well, people who eat the highest amounts of lutein cut their risk by 48%.
Wow. Wow.
So it's one thing that you can really do. And again, diet is so important to overall health,
Yes.
not only keeping us trim, but keeping us healthy too.
Well, this is just a little bit of what's contained in Stephen's books. I want to show them to you because whether you're a man or a woman, these are for you. Check out these books. They are called The Men's Health Diet and The Women's Health Diet.
You find them exclusively at menshealthdiet.com. I'm sorry, menshealthdietbook.com, womenshealthdietbook.com.
Okay, and if you didn't catch that, go to cbn.com and we'll tell you how to get there. Okay, Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to have you with
Appreciate
us.
it.
Wonderful information. Pat, that's encouraging.
Oh, what do you do on the way to 90? You have one for that? Still ahead. We're going to bring it on your questions from our chat room, so don't go away.
Dear Bowflex, I dropped 8 dress sizes, 36 pounds, and all I had to do was walk.
This is the Bowflex Tread Climber machine, the easiest way to walk and burn up to twice the calories in less time. By combining the motion of a treadmill, a stepper, and an elliptical, you get the calorie-burning benefits of all 3 workouts at once.
I lost 30 pounds in 4 months. If I can do it, anyone can do it.
Call now for your free DVD and information kit. You'll see how the Tread Climber burns up to twice the calories of a treadmill. Plus, you'll learn how you can own a Tread Climber machine today with special financing for 18 months.
Within the first couple of weeks, I started to lose inches. I lost 50 pounds in 3 months using the Tread Climber.
Call or go online to buytc.com for your free info kit. We'll also send you the Bowflex Insider's Guide with a personal fitness assessment to help you jumpstart your Bowflex body today, absolutely free.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bowflex.
Sincerely, J.D. Weber.
Tomorrow.
I was sexually abused by 5 members of my family.
A desperate woman
Something's wrong with me.
seeks help from her pastor
His reply to me was, "You're damaged goods."
and finds it where she least expects it.
I woke up after taking a bottle of sleeping pills with a NyQuil chaser.
Tomorrow on the 700 Club.
When a typhoon tore the roof off of one Vietnamese school, it didn't just cancel classes. It also nearly ruined one girl's chance at providing for her family.
At this trade school in Vietnam, teens from poor families, like Luong, are being taught skills that will help her support her family. In just a few months, she's already begun to master this needlework art form.
At first, it was difficult to learn the sewing techniques. But soon, I was enjoying my work and was getting better at it.
Over the past year, Luong has been trying to find ways to make money to help support her widowed mother and siblings. It wasn't until she came to this school for orphans and street kids that she began to have hope. That's when a typhoon hit that could have closed the school for good.
Even though we prepared for the typhoon, we didn't expect it to bring such devastation. It took us 7 days just to throw out the garbage and clean out the mess.
And there was no money to replace the roof that had blown off in the typhoon.
I was especially concerned about Long. She has really become the breadwinner since her father died.
The school's director called CBN's office in Vietnam to see if we could help. That's when Orphans Promise provided all the money they needed to replace the school's roof and to make the necessary repairs inside the building. That meant Luong would be able to return to school and finish her training.
I could hardly believe it. I was dancing in my heart. Thank you.
I am very excited about this new business you are teaching me. Thank you for helping us.
If you're a 700 Club member, you're making that kind of a difference in people's lives, literally around the world. We want to say thank you for caring. You know, it's so easy to watch what's happening in someone else's life and then to just move on to the next program. But many, many of you have gone to your phones and called and said, I want to be a part of making a difference. If you're watching today and you haven't already done that, it's never too late. We have so many opportunities to touch and change people's lives and circumstances. We want to invite you to join the 700 Club today. It's 65 cents a day, $20 a month. It makes you a world changer, and it helps us to reach into the nations of the earth, not just with the kind of help that you just saw, but also with the love of Jesus Christ. So will you go to your phone and call right now? It's toll-free, 1-800-759-0700. Just say, I want to join the 700 Club. Our way of saying thank you to you for caring about the needs of others is to send you the Law of Expectation. This is a teaching done by Pat and Gordon. It'll really bless you. It really blessed my life, and I know you'll be blessed by it as well. So please call now. It's wonderful in the midst of the chaos in the world today to know that you can make a difference, isn't it? It's not that hard to do. So go to your phone and call. You ready to answer some
Okay, let's go for
questions?
it. Let's go.
Okay.
Bring it on.
This is Timothy, who says, I tried to sell my soul to the devil as a teenager. Can I be forgiven?
Well, Timothy, I don't think you succeeded. I think you still got your soul. The devil didn't get it, and yes, you could be forgiven. You know, the biggest thing is, if you feel guilt, if you feel something in your heart that you've done wrong and you ask God to forgive you, then he'll forgive you. People think, well, have I sinned away my chance? You've never sinned away your chance as long as you feel in your heart that you've done something wrong and you ask God to forgive you. You know, I was reading about Jesus who was talking about if somebody does something bad to you and comes and asks your forgiveness, how many times did you forgive them? 7 times? And he said, no, 7 times 70. So a guy's got 490 chances to hit you in the face and say, well, I'm so sorry. And you've got to forgive him. Well, if you've got to do it, well, God's got to do the same thing for you. So he's got infinite patience. Just don't keep presuming on it. All right?
Okay, this is from Patrick, who says, I work in the licensing department for a state that permits civil unions. Should I refuse to perform gay marriages? I'm worried that if I do, I will get fired.
That's a tough one. I think if you say that you've got a conscience problem about that, they might excuse you from that duty. You say, look, I've got a religious issue with this. They won't fire you. But if you do, go get a job someplace else, you know. But I know that's tough. But if you feel a conscience that you shouldn't be doing it, then... But a civil union just acknowledges certain rights that people have. It's not the same thing as marriage. So there are many people who say, well, if we've got to do something, let's do that instead of marriage. But it's your conscience. If it hurts your conscience, then tell your supervisor, tell them, say, look, I have a religious problem about this. Would you please excuse me from this duty? And if you ask nicely, the chances are they'll go along with it.
Okay, this is something you referred earlier, Pat, to oil prices, and this is what Peter said in response. More drilling wouldn't cause oil prices to decline. Wouldn't that just encourage OPEC nations to drill less, thus keeping prices the same?
No, I don't think so. I think that the pricing is on the margins. And if there is a little bit more coming at the margin, you see, what came out of Libya was on the margin. It wasn't the big supply. It wasn't the big OPEC thing, because Libya's production isn't all that great. But it was on the margin that it shrunk, and therefore the prices went up. So if the United States has more oil coming in, it on the margin will flood the market. It'll mean we'll take less from overseas. Therefore, there'll be more of that to go to Europe or go to Japan or China, and therefore the prices will stay down. But the fact that they're not that sophisticated, about the fact that some stripper well in Texas is cranking out 2, 3, 5 barrels, 10 barrels a day or something. They don't work it that way. But the United States has got to get off of this addiction to imported oil.
Okay, this is Christine, who says, I am a real estate agent, and I have a client that wants to buy a house, and I will receive a nice commission from it. He has plenty of money. The problem? I think he may have earned his money illegally. Is it wrong for me to take dirty money from bad people?
Listen, you know, Paul said if you don't want to deal with crooks and thieves and fornicators and so forth, you'd have to leave the world. You just honestly can't sit in judgment over how every client gets his money, because you don't know. You have a suspicion, but you don't know. It may be he got an inheritance from his great uncle, but it's not up for you to be a judge. You're an agent to buy and sell real estate. Leave it at that. You can't say. Now, if you know the guys in the mob, you know that what he's giving you is money that comes out of drugs, and you know it, and you've been told it, that's a different matter. But you have a suspicion. We just can't refuse to deal with people because we have a suspicion that maybe they got their money wrong.
This is Renee, who says, Pat, you've complained about Obama running up the deficit, but where was the outrage when Bush took a surplus and turned it into a record deficit?
Well, there's plenty of outrage from me because Bush was a big spender. Yeah. And that's the reason the Republicans lost the election that year. They lost the Congress. Just because of that, people said, look, we're supposed to be a party of fiscal discipline, and if you're going to act this way, we're not going to support you. No, George Bush was, people might like him, but he was a big spender. He's a big government, big spender. And we paid the price for it. And so Obama just continued and added to it markedly.
This is Joanne, who says, I have a serious medical issue, but doctors aren't taking me seriously. They say that it's in my head and they won't treat my problem. What should I do? Get different doctors. There are many diagnostic tools. I had a friend a long time ago. His wife, he was tired all the time. His wife said, well, you're just faking. And all the time he was faking. So he finally got into the hospital with a heart attack, and they discovered that a valve in his heart had been eaten up by bacteria, and he had to get a replaced valve, and all of a sudden he's got his energy back. And he almost wept because he said, they kept saying that I was faking, and it was real. Yeah. Don't do that. Get a different doctor. Get a different set of doctors. All right? Okay, here's a question from an anonymous viewer. I read the Bible, I pray, but still God feels distant. Do you have any advice? Take a few days, just you and the Lord, get your Bible, and first of all, look into your heart and ask God to show you the areas in your life where you have been breaking His law, where you have been failing to serve Him as you should, where you've gone against what you knew was right, and confess those and ask forgiveness. Because somewhere along the way, that's the way it is. And then when you get that, you'll have a flood of joy in your heart, and you'll be at peace with God. Well, that's all the time we've got. Thanks so much for your questions. Thanks for being with us. And we leave you with these words from Psalm 37. That's a good one. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. That's all the time we've got. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow on another edition of the 700 Club. Bye-bye.
Tomorrow.
I was sexually abused by 5 members of my family.
A desperate woman
Something's wrong with me.
Seeks help from her pastor.
His reply to me was, you're damaged goods.
And finds it where she least expects it.
I woke up after taking a bottle of sleeping pills with a NyQuil chaser.
Tomorrow on the 700 Club.
Here at CBN, we see amazing things happen when we stand together.
That's why we want to say thank you to the thousands of you who recently pledged to join the 700 Club.
Your monthly gift makes it possible to bring crucial help to those who need it most.
You help heal the sick, feed the hungry, and preach the gospel across America and throughout the world. You've brought health and hope to people in desperate need.
And changed their lives forever.
Just like you did for Zhang Zhu. She and her 3 children lost everything in an earthquake. They could barely survive below 0 temperatures in a tent without heat. That was until you gave her a heater stove and warm blankets. Now she and her family have hot food and can sleep comfortably at night.
So please, watch for this mailing and send in your pledge. This year, millions will know
the love and saving power of Jesus Christ.
And that only happens because you were there.